I want to start today with a business pitch, and I want you to, put your investor hat on for a second.
Okay, I'm listening. Lay it on me.
Picture a huge retail environment, but here's the twist. Your customer base is literally locked inside the store.
Locked in.
Locked in. They can't leave. They can't just pull up Amazon or go down the street to a competitor.
So, zero competition.
Zero. And the vendor, you can charge basically unregulated prices. But, and this is the key, to get this monopoly, you have to pay the landlord a massive cut of your sales.
A cut of the sales, not just rent.
Nope, a percentage of everything you sell.
I mean, if you pitch that on Shark Tank, they'd laugh you out of the room. It sounds illegal, like a cartel or something that breaks every antitrust law there is.
It really does, doesn't it? But what we found in the stack of documents for today's deep dive is that this is just standard operating procedure for the financial ecosystem of the prison system.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're looking at Alabama.
It's a heavy stack of papers this time. We've got requests for proposals, RFPs from the Alabama Department of Corrections,
Right.
financial reports on private equity firms like HIG Capital, and some really dense legal filings about healthcare bankruptcies.
And our mission today isn't just to say, oh, prisons are expensive. I think we all kind of know that. We want to unpack the actual mechanism. We want to understand how a contract to, say, feed people or let them make a phone call is actually awarded, and why a little packet of tuna can cost $3.
Right. It's about following the money. Because when you look at these documents, you realize pretty quickly this isn't just about punishment anymore. It's become a punishment economy.
A punishment economy.
Yeah. And it's a system that shifts the cost of incarceration off of the state, off the taxpayer, and puts it squarely on the shoulders of the families.
That's the part that really got me. I think most people, myself included, assume our tax dollars pay for prisons. And they do, of course.
Sure.
But this suggests there's this whole other revenue stream being pulled from some of the poorer people in the state.
Exactly. And to see how that works, you really have to start with the first point of contact for an inmate and their family. The phone.
The phone system. Now, logically, I'd assume, the state puts a phone on the wall, they charge a few cents for maintenance, and that's it, a utility.
That would be the utility model. But that is not the business model here. We looked at the bidding process. Companies like Securus, GTL, these huge providers, they compete to get the contract for the Alabama Department of Corrections.
Okay.
But here's the thing. They are not competing to offer the lowest price to the person making the call.
Which is how government contracts are supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
Usually is who can do this the cheapest for the taxpayer.
Exactly. In this case, it's the opposite. The vendors are competing to see who can pay the state the most money back.
Wait, what?
It's a mechanism called a site commission.
A site commission.
Yeah.
That sounds so corporate, so normal.
It's designed to sound normal. But what it is, in practice, is a revenue share. The documents show that the Alabama Department of Corrections, the ADOC, gets a monthly check from these phone companies.
How big of a check are we talking about?
We're seeing figures between $300,000 and $350,000.
A month?
Every single month.
Hold on, just for letting the phones be on the wall? That's, over $4 million a year just flowing into the ADOC budget?
Correct. And that money has to come from somewhere. The vendor isn't paying that out of the goodness of their heart.
So they're inflating the cost of the call.
Massively. We saw reports that, historically, some jurisdictions in Alabama have had commission rates as high as 80, even 84%.
I need to process that math. 84%. That's wild.
It is. So let's say a mom puts $10 on her son's phone account. If that commission rate is 84%, then $8.40 of that $10 isn't paying for the phone service.
It's going straight to the prison.
Straight to the prison or the sheriff's department. The phone company, the one actually providing the service, they only keep $1.60.
So to make any money at all, they have to charge these just astronomical rates per minute.
Of course, they have to charge enough to cover their own costs, their profit, and this massive cut for the landlord.
I mean, it's a kickback. Let's just call it what it is. If I tell a vendor, hike your prices so you can pay me more, that is a kickback.
Well, you're not wrong. The FCC and other regulators have used that exact term, legalized kickbacks. Some critics even say bribes.
But it's legal because it's in the contract.
It's just called a commission. But the economic function is identical. And the result is the family, the mother, the wife, is effectively paying a hidden tax.
A tax to talk to their loved one.
Exactly. And Alabama ranks 44th in the country for call affordability. We're talking about families choosing between buying groceries and putting money on a phone account. They are literally subsidizing the state's prison budget.
Wow. That completely reframes the incentives. If the state makes more money when calls are expensive,
Then there is zero incentive to negotiate for lower rates. In fact, the incentive is to keep rates as high as possible to maximize that monthly check.
yeah, that's tough. Okay, but the phone is just one part. When you move to, like, basic physical needs,
Yeah,
food, it gets even more complicated.
it does. This is where we get into what researchers call the cafeteria commissary loop. And this is where some big private equity players show up. We saw the name HIG Capital over and over.
HIG Capital sounds like a Wall Street firm.
A huge one. And they own a company called TKC Holdings. Now, TKC is basically a combination of two other companies. Trinity Services Group, which does the cafeteria
The
food.
free meals on the tray.
Right. And Keefe Group, which runs the commissary, the little prison store.
Okay, let me get this straight. The same parent company is providing the meal you're supposed to get for free
Okay.
and selling you the bag of chips you buy later because you're still hungry.
Yes. And that is a textbook conflict of interest.
I can already see where this is going. If I make a profit from the chips, but the meal is just a cost.
You have a very clear financial incentive to make the cafeteria food as well as cheap and unappealing as possible.
You starve them to sell to them.
That's the exact phrase critics use. And we saw evidence of this in the sources. Descriptions of meals being things like small little rolls and 4 carrots.
That's dinner, 4 carrots in a roll.
That's what was reported. There were also investigations into Trinity that mentioned food that smelled foul, reports of mold, even maggots in some cases. It's a strategy to create a calorie deficit.
Because if you're hungry and you have any money at all, you're going to the commissary. Not for a treat, but just for basic survival, for calories.
And the commissary is not a competitive marketplace. The markups we saw were staggering.
Like what?
A single packet of ramen noodles?
Yeah.
You and I can buy that for what, 30 cents?
Less, probably, in bulk.
Inside, it was selling for up to $1. A can of tuna that costs 80 cents at Walmart. We saw it listed for $3.25.
A 400% markup on tuna. And the people buying this have jobs that pay. Pennies an hour.
Or nothing. In Alabama, many prison jobs pay nothing at all. Yet the data shows that incarcerated people in these systems spend, on average, almost $1,000 a year at the commissary.
That money has to be coming from the outside. From the families again?
It is. Wiring money in, and often paying a fee to do that, by the way, just so their loved one can get enough to eat. It creates a closed economic loop.
It's like the old company store model in coal towns.
It's very similar. You work for the company, live in company housing, and spend your wages at the company store. The money just goes right back to the employer.
It's an extraction model.
It is. But there's one more layer to this that is, honestly, maybe the most disturbing, and that's healthcare.
Right. This was the billion-dollar contract that made headlines.
Yes. The ADOC awarded a contract worth about $1 billion to a company called YesCare to handle all healthcare in the prisons.
$1 billion. So you'd assume they picked the best, or at least the cheapest, bidder.
Well, the documents show YesCare was not the lowest bidder. And as for their track record,
Yeah.
that's where things get really complicated. We have to talk about something called the Texas two-step.
Okay, I've heard of this. It's not a dance, it's a legal strategy, right?
It's a very controversial bankruptcy maneuver. See, YesCare used to be called Corizon, and Corizon was facing a mountain of lawsuits, just a flood of them.
For what?
Allegations of gross negligence, medical malpractice, people dying from lack of basic care. Really awful stuff. This liability was an existential threat to their business.
So they needed a way out.
So they did the Texas two-step. They performed a divisional merger. Essentially, the company splits itself into 2 new companies. Yeah. Think of it as good co, bad co.
Okay, so they clone themselves.
Kinda, but they divide the assets. The first company, which became YesCare, takes all the good stuff, the profitable government contracts, the staff, the revenue, the actual business.
Okay.
The second company, which they call T-Hum Care Services, gets almost nothing, except for one thing.
All the lawsuits.
All of the lawsuits. And then, almost the next day, T-Hum Care Services files for bankruptcy.
Unbelievable. So if I'm a family suing because my son died from negligence,
Yeah.
suddenly I'm not suing a billion-dollar company anymore.
You're now just an unsecured creditor in line behind a bankrupt shell company with no assets.
Yeah.
It stops the lawsuits cold.
That feels like cheating. How is that even legal? It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card for corporate wrongdoing.
It's being challenged in the courts, but it has been used. In this case, it allowed the profitable part of the business, YesCare, to wipe its slate clean and sign that brand new billion-dollar deal with Alabama.
And there was controversy around the deal itself, too, wasn't there?
A huge controversy.
Mm-hmm.
The sources point out that a private attorney who was defending the ADOC in lawsuits was suddenly put on YesCare's advisory board.
Right before they got the contract.
Very shortly before. It's a classic revolving door situation. The Alabama legislature actually thought it looked so bad they halted the contract for 45 days to review it.
But it went through anyway.
It went through anyway.
So you have these kickbacks on phones, price gouging on food, and healthcare companies using legal loopholes to dodge liability. I mean, what does this all add up to? What's the reality inside these prisons?
It's chaos. It's incredibly dangerous. You have to remember the backdrop for all of this. Alabama's prisons are operating at nearly 200% capacity.
Double the number of people they were built to hold.
Right. So you have extreme overcrowding, underpaid and overwhelmed staff, and inadequate food. It's a recipe for violence. The homicide rate inside Alabama prisons is 6 times the national average.
6 times? That is a horrifying statistic.
It's one of the most dangerous prison systems in the developed world. And the state's proposed solution, the Alabama solution, isn't sentencing reform or reducing the population.
It's to build bigger prisons.
Right. To lease new mega prisons from a private company, CoreCivic, at a cost of about $3 billion to the taxpayer.
So the plan is pay a private landlord billions to warehouse more people, while other private companies make money off their families for food and phone calls.
That is the economic loop that seems to be in place. And as critics point out, if the system generates revenue from keeping people locked up,
then there's no financial incentive to rehabilitate anyone. If the bed is empty, the phone doesn't ring.
And the commissary doesn't sell any ramen, the inmate becomes the raw material that keeps the whole factory running.
It's such a bleak picture. It feels like the whole system is just designed to perpetuate itself. But I know we found one group trying to push back on this, the Alabama Prison Reform Partner.
Yes, ALPRP. You can find them at lprop.org.
What's their angle? Because prison reform is one of those phrases you hear all the time, but it often feels like nothing changes.
They're taking a really pragmatic approach. They start with the simple fact that a lot of people forget. 95% of incarcerated people eventually come home.
That's a huge point. They don't just disappear. They come back to our communities.
They become our neighbors again. And ALPRP argues that if you brutalize someone in an overcrowded, violent warehouse for years, you're not rehabilitating them. You're just traumatizing them.
So reform isn't about being soft on crime. It's just public safety. It's practical.
It's entirely practical. And another thing they focus on is officer wellness.
Yeah.
They recognize the correctional officers are in crisis too. They're understaffed, overworked in that same dangerous environment.
So they're trying to fix the whole system, not just one part of it.
Exactly. Safety for everyone, accountability, actual transformation. It's a holistic approach because you can't just fix one broken contract. You have to fix the incentives.
This has been a really heavy deep dive, but I think it's so important to understand. We started with this sort of abstract business pitch, but for thousands of families in Alabama, this is their financial reality every day.
It is. And if there's one takeaway, it's that the bad service, the inedible food, the exorbitant phone rates, the denied medical care, those aren't bugs in the system. They're not accidents. In this business model, they're features. They're what drives the profit.
That's a chilling thought to end on, and I guess I'll leave you with this final question to think about. If a prison system's budget and its vendors' profits depend on keeping beds full, what real incentive does the state have to ever empty them?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.